Hey, are you ready? Gentlemen, we all set?
Yep.
All set? Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 8th, 2017 Litchfield Board of Selectmen meeting. The board is just coming out of a paperwork review, and I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, first order of business tonight is the public hearing in order to ratify the town meeting votes. And what I will do is read a resolution that we've had drafted. Actually, several towns have drafted resolutions similar to this. And apparently the legislature signed into law on April 21st, House Bill 329, requiring the board to go back and ratify the votes taken at the town meetings that were delayed due to the blizzard of March 14th. I know this may be painful to all of you, but I do need to read the resolution, and I will open the public hearing at this point and read the resolution and ask if there's any input from the public. Okay, whereas the town of Litchfield had the 2017 town meeting voting session scheduled for March 14th, 2017, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the Campbell School Gymnasium, 11 Highlander Court, Litchfield, New Hampshire, in accordance with the provisions of RSA 40:13. Whereas on March 13th, 2017, at 8:02 a.m., the New Hampshire Bureau of Homeland Security and Emergency Management provided a bulletin from the National Weather Service. The National Weather Service issued a winter storm warning for all of New Hampshire, a warning of a major winter storm. The prediction of the NWS was for 12 to 18 inches, with 1 to 4 inches per hour possible. Blizzard conditions were possible with gusts of wind from 30 to 40 miles an hour. Governor Chris Sununu warned citizens not to travel on the roadways unless it was absolutely necessary. State offices and liquor stores were eventually closed in anticipation of the storm. Whereas on March 13, 2017, following the second Homeland Security conference call with Governor Chris Sununu and consultation with the department heads and elected officials, John Regan, town moderator, determined the forecasted weather presented an unnecessary risk to the safety of voters who would need to travel to the polls to vote. In making this decision, the town moderator was advised by the town administrator that the New Hampshire Municipal Association and Town Council Laura Spector Morgan issued legal opinions that the town moderator had the authority to postpone voting day pursuant to RSA 40:4. Whereas the duties of the town moderator pursuant to RSA 40:4 are as follows. The moderator shall preside in the town meetings, regulate the business thereof, decide questions of order, and make public declaration of every vote passed, and may prescribe rules of proceeding, but such rules may be altered by the town. In the event of a weather emergency occurs on or before the date of a deliberative session or voting day of a meeting in a town, which the moderator reasonably believes may cause the roads to be hazardous or unsafe, the moderator may, up to 2 hours prior to the scheduled session, postpone and reschedule the deliberative session or voting day of the meeting to another reasonable date, place, and time certain. The date originally scheduled shall continue to be deemed the deliberative session or voting day of the meeting for purposes of satisfying statutory meeting date requirements, provided that in towns or districts that have adopted RSA 40:13, the postponement shall not delay the deliberative session more than 72 hours. The moderator shall employ whatever means are available to inform citizens of the postponement and the rescheduled deliberative session or voting day. Whereas the moderator postponed the voting day from March 14th, 2017 to March 21st, 2017. The voting times and location remain the same. The notice of postponement was issued on March 13th, 2017 by posting on the town website, Facebook page, and town office signboards. The town's emergency alert system sent phone, email, and text messages to residents. Information was provided to the WMUR television station for posting with its scrolling notices, and the moderator also posted notice at the voting location. Whereas the moderator acted within his authority, further, he acted in the best interest of the voters by postponing the voting session of town meeting in the interest of public safety. The safety of the citizens of this town is of the foremost concern to its officials. The decision to postpone ensured the safety of citizens and allowed for the processes of democracy to occur without unduly infringing upon the right to vote. Whereas the advice provided by the New Hampshire Municipal Association and Town Council is in accordance with the law. The interpretation of the law in this case is in the finest traditions of the legal profession. The NHMA has demonstrated its role of providing training, assistance, guidance, and advocacy on behalf of local government in this state with the high degree of professionalism that we have come to expect. Now therefore be it resolved, after a properly noticed public hearing on this date, in accordance with the provisions of House Bill 329, which was passed into law on April 21st, 2017, we do hereby ratify the 2017 town meeting and all actions taken by the legislative body by vote of the people on March 21st, 2017. And subsequent to the public hearing, and it will take a vote to adopt by the Litchfield Board of Selectmen. Is there anyone that would like to comment, or any members of the public that has a comment on the resolution? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion to adopt the resolution and send it accordingly up to Concord.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Perry. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Brunel. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstain? Motion carries by unanimous vote, 5-0-0. Thank you, gentlemen. And at this point, we will sign it and transmit it, I believe, to the Secretary of State. Won't be happy reading this, but that's all right.
I was gonna ask if you wanted to read it again, but
What do we?
if you wanted to read it again.
Okay, no, I'm done, thank you. Okay, the public hearing is closed. We'll move on to other items on the agenda. Review and approval of consent items. In the consent agenda tonight, we have the April 10th, 2017 meeting minutes, payroll manifest of April 27th of $51,875.03, May 4th, $50,223.07, and May 11th, $49,409.95. We have an accounts payable manifest of 4/18/17 of $66,611.48, May 2nd of $62,071.03, and May 9th, $48,461.08. We have 3 elderly exemptions. We have 17 all veterans tax credits. We have 1 abatement denial. We have 1 abatement approval. We have an application for current use. We have tax collector reconciliation for March and April, town clerk reconciliation March and April, and treasurer reconciliation for March. Are there any items any members wish to remove from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the item.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll give it to Mr. Bork this time. A second, Mr. Brunel?
Yep.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0. The request for any additional items to appear on the agenda tonight for any member. Okay, thank you. Announcement, public input will occur no earlier than 6:30 tonight. And we'll be going on to the regular business. Our first order of business is Pete Kavanaugh.
Sean Downey.
Sean Downey, you are replacing Pete?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Downey has asked to appear. He's from Granite State Power Link, and he has passed out information and would like to give us a brief update of your activities. Now, this is relative to the Northern Paths project,
This is relative to the Granite State Power Link project.
Granite State
Yeah.
Power.
So if,
Come on to the microphone, please, and
thank
Did you
you.
say you had an electronic version of it?
I'm sorry?
Did you say you had an electronic version of the PowerPoint?
I do.
If you can give it to me, I'll load it up so the public can see it.
You'll need that plug.
Nope, no, I'm gonna post it on the website and just publish
Oh.
it.
Thank you very much for having me tonight. My name is Sean Downey, and I represent the Granite State Power Link, which is a newly announced and proposed electric transmission project by National Grid.
I'm sorry, I didn't
Yeah.
mean to mix you.
No problem at all.
And I knew that, and my apologies.
No problem at all. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about our project. The project is proposed to run through Litchfield, and we're busily on the road meeting with boards of selectmen across the state in the 24 towns that the project passes through to tell you about our plans and seek your feedback. I'll begin with slide 2. Right after the cover page of the presentation that you have printed in front of you. It's a general project overview. For those of you not yet familiar with our project, the Granite State Power Link will deliver up to 1,200 megawatts of reliable, affordable, renewable, clean energy from Quebec into the New England power grid. It's a development project of National Grid, which is a global leader in transmission development. And we have, along with us, a co-investor, Citizens Energy, a nonprofit that helps low-income families with their energy needs. You might be familiar with some of their work across New England. We believe the project will provide significant local and statewide economic benefits in the form of increased property tax revenues for our host communities and lower energy costs, which we believe will spur statewide economic development. As of right now, we're projecting that this project will lower New Hampshire energy costs by $1.4 billion over 10 years. We're very proud to say that our project maximizes the use of existing transmission corridors and infrastructure to bring in the energy into the New England grid down from Quebec. Because of that, obviously, especially the existing infrastructure and corridor component, that means lower development costs, which makes our project relatively inexpensive as compared to other projects of similar size and scope. Going to slide 3, you can see the project route. The line crosses into an existing corridor at the International Border Crossing in Norton, Vermont, cuts down through the Northeast Kingdom of Vermont, and crosses the Connecticut River into New Hampshire and Littleton. In Littleton, it takes a sharp turn west where it heads to Monroe. Now, the reason that line there is orange is because that denotes a portion of the line that will require an expanded right-of-way. There is currently an electric transmission right-of-way in that area that we will follow right next to. But essentially what we're proposing to do in Littleton and Monroe in particular is building a new DC tower next to an existing DC tower. And expanding the right-of-way there. What we're going to do in Monroe on property that is currently owned by National Grid, construct a converter station, which is a roughly $200 million asset, at which point the power is essentially changed to AC power, and then we'll begin a 106-mile AC run through an existing right-of-way on existing towers from Monroe down to Litchfield. Which I can get into in a little bit in detail. The green portion of the line of the map that you're looking at right here indicates that there is no right-of-way expansion needed whatsoever. And 80% of those towers, if not more, on that green line will be reused, essentially reconductored with new 345 kV lines, increasing the amount of energy that can run through that corridor. And you'll see on the left-hand side, our total mileage in Litchfield is 1.9 miles.
In the yellow meaning?
The yellow meaning, I'm glad you asked that. In yellow meaning, when we get into the southernmost portion of Litchfield and in Londonderry, we will seek to expand the existing right-of-way by varying amounts. But for a good portion of our run through Litchfield, we will not need to expand the right-of-way, and will be.
Is this the right-of-way in the north end with the large towers?
Yeah, it's the one not far from here, two roughly 60-foot towers on the outside. It kind of cuts south-east through town and then cuts into Londonderry from the Litchfield border.
There's a couple of them, and I'm wondering if
Which ones are
one's coming across the country club also.
Yes, it's the one by the golf club.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, so it's not, all right.
Yep. Yes, in the southernmost portion of Litchfield and in Londonderry, we will seek to expand our right-of-way to construct additional structures. And I'll get into detail on that, those schematics towards the end of the presentation. New Hampshire route close-up. The Litchfield component of this map on the right-hand side is not entirely accurate. The green line actually runs a little bit longer into Litchfield. As
I
I
was going
said,
to say,
Yeah.
if you're going by the country club, it's got to come down by the L at least, below the.
okay, that's a good flag. So as I said, the green portion of the line is where the right-of-way is no longer, there's no expansion needed. And we're going to use 80%, if not more, of the existing towers and by just reconductoring them. The yellow component of the line in Litchfield and Londonderry is where we're going to seek to make that expansion. And in Londonderry, we will construct a switch yard, which is going to be built on roughly 5 acres of property that we're still in the process of identifying. Going to slide 5, talk a little bit about outreach and engagement. This project was announced on March 28th. Since then, we've been aggressively contacting towns, meeting with boards of selectmen, meeting with environmental organizations, business groups, chambers of commerce, anyone that has a stake in a project like this, and talking about our plans and seeking their feedback. We're very excited to be here talking with you folks. But engagement and collaboration with communities, our host communities, is going to be a key part of what we do with this program. It's integral to National Grid's approach, and I think you're going to see that throughout this entire process. As I said, the project was announced in March, and we've been at it since that day on March 28th. Granite State PowerLink meetings are underway with all select boards and town councils for the communities on the project route, and private, state, and federal landowners and easement holders along the route. Those conversations are beginning now. We've met with elected officials at every level, from the governor to federal delegations, state reps, state senators, in hopes that everyone feels as though they're getting as much information as possible every step of this process. Economic benefits, if you go to slide 6, Granite State PowerLink will create over 1,500 annual jobs in New Hampshire during a 2+ year construction phase. We are estimating a roughly 30-month construction phase. We're going to provide substantial assistance for the energy needs of low-income customers through nonprofit co-developer Citizens Energy. We propose to support job creation through regional economic development partners. Those are conversations that are ongoing, and we hope to have details about those programs soon. And as I mentioned before, the project will reduce New Hampshire market electric prices by $1.4 billion over 10 years.
How much do we currently spend over 10 years as a state? Since you're telling us you're going to reduce it by $1.4 billion, how much are we spending?
It's a good question, and actually one I haven't gotten yet, but I'd be happy to try and get you a number.
If you're measuring anything,
yeah,
I'd like to know what the
yeah.
big number is so that we can, you know.
Yeah, when you get into energy market savings, it's a relatively complex equation. So that $1.4 billion is made up of both market savings, which is, like buying a product. I mean, it's, what you pay for what you get. And then there's also capacity savings. And that the market savings, I believe, is $157 million over 10 years. And then the capacity savings is 1.25 or so billion over that same 10 years. So it's a number of different factors, but it's a totally fair question. I'll see.
Good to get a picture.
Yeah, I perhaps see if we can figure out what the costs were over the last 10 years. And then, as I said before, we're going to provide substantial new property tax revenues to host towns, a factor of both new construction, where that new construction is set to take place, and the value of the new assets that are being located in our host communities. And if you go to slide 7, I'm very proud to be able to present to you what we're projecting as our tax revenue for the town of Litchfield. These numbers are incremental. So if you look at, for instance, the year 2024, I should back up and say that the project is projected to be in service by 2022. So we look at the second year of in service, 2024. We're projecting a local property tax revenue if the tax rate is not reduced due to new income or new revenue, I should say, of $156,632.
Okay, now, explain that again for the person. How do you mean if the tax rate is not reduced?
So if the town made the decision to keep the property tax rate as is, despite the influx of new revenues from a line like this, in other words, if the property tax were to remain the same as it is now, then that number would be $156,632.
So you're talking pure revenue?
Pure revenue, right.
Additional
revenue.
revenue?
Yes,
All right.
yes, sir. Yep. So this is property taxes paid by the transmission company to the town on the assets that we have located in the town of Litchfield.
And why would it go down if the tax rate is reduced? Explain that.
If you're reducing the property tax rate, then it would be reduced on our assets. as
Oh,
well.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I see. I
Right.
get it.
Right.
Sorry.
I mean, the expert we had that to create these numbers added this in as an illustration if property tax rates were to decrease because of the added new
And then you
revenues.
pay on the debt. I
Right.
get it.
It's also making a lot of assumptions that, you might, that on decisions the town might make at any given point.
Right.
So,
Okay.
and then that third column there is the state utility property tax revenues that we would pay to the state for the located assets.
Why do you have a 1 through 17 after the year 2024 and down?
2024 is the first full calendar year in operation.
Okay, because you said 2022.
2022, yeah. It's another good question. I don't know the answer.
Okay. Because when you said, yeah, because there was a difference in 22 to 24, and then I start seeing the 1.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can ask why he had them numbered that way, but
Okay.
these are numbers that the company is going to commit to as an amount as minimum property tax payments to the town should the project be permitted, sited, and put into service. So we're pretty comfortable in what we're providing you.
Okay.
And then obviously as the assets age a little bit, you see in the year 2043, they start to come down from the 180,000 mark. They go down again to as low as 140, 137. They'll never depreciate as a rule below 80%.
In the years of increases, are you assuming that would be infrastructure improvements? Add to the value? Because
No.
you get down to the bottom of 2060,
Yeah.
you're back up into the 170, 180,000 range.
You're right.
So I could, as someone who doesn't necessarily understand, I could only assume that by then you would have to be making substantial infrastructure improvements, which would incrementally increase the value back again.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that.
I do have an answer here, and in the interest of time, what I'd like to do is I'd like to get back to you in writing rather than
Sure.
yeah. So the answer I've been provided on the question that you're asking is, each year the original cost of the Granite State PowerLink property is increased by the general cost increase in such projects. So I think we're assuming a 3.3% per year based on one of the industry indexes,
Okay.
which contributes to the rise and fall.
Sure.
So when you counterbalance that with the depreciation is why you see the number start to go up, down.
Right, but there's that valley in there where
Right.
there's substantial
Yep.
reduction, and then all of a sudden it goes back up again and over, and I'm just curious as to what drives that. So if you could,
Yep.
Hey, let's face it, in 3 years, these numbers aren't gonna be right anyway.
well, and guess what?
Let's not-
Oh,
let's not go all the way
it's
I
funny.
don't
Yeah.
know that in 2060 that I will be here worrying about it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but I would like to know before I go
In 2060,
what was
I
that
won't
I
be
was
here.
looking at.
The
So he can rest in peace, right?
Right, so I can rest it.
the added note I've been provided by the expert that put the numbers together is that full value property tax rates increasing 1% every year, which I think also contributes to the rise after the depreciation bottoms out.
Okay. Could you
Yes, sir.
give me a little bit more detail after?
Yep. Absolutely.
Or could you, send it to our town administrator?
Yep.
I'd just like to know the methodology of how they figured that. And I'm certainly aware it's, that is governed by a whole mess of agencies and you're regulated, so I understand.
Sure.
But it's just so that we could understand it, because, I'd like to be able to answer questions if they get asked of me.
Of course. Yep. I will get that response to Troy.
Thank you.
So so at the bottom of slide 8, local property tax revenue, if tax rate is not reduced over the 41 years after in service, we're looking at $7.1 million plus in additional property tax revenue for the town. Obviously over a 41 year period of time. Slide 9, I'll talk a little bit about need and timing and why we're proposing this project. The Granite State PowerLink project is vital to helping New England. All 6 states in New England have set ambitious greenhouse gas reduction goals over the next X amount of years, and we believe our project is vital to helping those states meet those goals. Granite State PowerLink will deliver hydro and wind power from Quebec to the region to help meet those goals.
What percentage of the power is gonna be made that way?
We are currently in discussions with suppliers in Quebec, again, both hydro and wind. So we don't yet know, and we're also not able to discuss yet who we're having those conversations with because obviously we're in negotiations. But we do plan on making announcements on who we've entered into those arrangements with in the coming months. And then as I said, existing corridors and infrastructure mean environmental benefits, project being done at a lower cost and minimum environmental impact and viewshed impact. And then lastly, as I'm sure a lot of folks are probably aware, recent Massachusetts state policy set an RFP for renewable energy. So Granite State PowerLink will submit a proposal to the Massachusetts utilities who are seeking bids for clean energy. Those are due in July. Selection process is due in early 2018. This is an important note. Granite State PowerLink remains open to New Hampshire utilities that are interested in exploring voluntary offtake of our line. In other words, we are open to having discussions with utilities in New Hampshire that want to purchase power off the line.
Today, there's no one buying.
Yeah, well, the project's been around for 4.5 weeks at this point, going on 5 weeks. So those are just conversations that haven't happened yet. As I'm sure you know, there's a lot happening in the transmission space right now. So they're just conversations that haven't taken place. Slide 10, who pays for the Granite State PowerLink? I talked a little bit about the Massachusetts RFP that was passed in 2016. So the Massachusetts electric utilities will enter into long-term contracts with renewable energy suppliers and essentially include the cost of those contracts with their electric rates to their customers. As you know, I just talked about voluntary agreements with New Hampshire utilities. New Hampshire electric companies are not required at all to purchase power off the line, though we're certainly open to having those conversations. This is an important note as well. There is absolutely no cost whatsoever to New Hampshire electric customers unless their distribution utility voluntarily elects to purchase power off the line, in which case some percentage based on that contract would be socialized to electric customers in New Hampshire for that specific distribution utility.
So how is this supposed to save us 1.4 billion if we're not buying the electricity from you?
It's a matter of supply and demand. So, you know, all of New England operates on a grid. So, you know, this influx of affordable power, renewable power coming in
To
from
make our
Quebec,
rates go down?
yes, will essentially make your electric rates go down.
Even if we don't buy it from you?
Exactly.
Interesting.
It's a factor of supply and demand. With this influx of new power coming into the region, it's just going to add to the supply, lower the demand, and lower the cost. And again, that gets into the market savings, which is the actual purchase of a product, versus capacity savings, which is something that you're charged as an electric customer for, how do I put this? Capacity in the event it's needed, if that makes sense. Slide 11. So this is cross-section, what we call cross-section 2. This is an example of the 106-mile AC upgrade. This is getting into the nuts and bolts of the project. We are going to reuse a vast majority of the existing towers in that right-of-way. That's that green 106-mile run from Monroe down to Litchfield. The existing right-of-way is 350 feet wide, and we will not expand that right-of-way. If you go to slide 12, this is what the right-of-way looks like currently. Picture yourself standing in the middle of that transmission corridor looking south from Monroe, and this is what you see. This is also what you see currently in Litchfield. There are two 60-foot towers on the outside of the right-of-way with a 110-foot 450 kV DC tower in the middle. That tower in the middle remains untouched, and the two towers on the outside of the right-of-way will remain as well. Only the lines that they carry now are 230 kV. We will upgrade those lines to 345 kV to account for the added power capacity. So if you go to slide 13, again, slide 12 is what it looks like now. Slide 13 is what it looks like when we're complete. And you'll note that important note at the top, that's 80% of existing towers left in place. So I want to explain that a little bit. Roughly 1 in 5, or 20% of the towers on that 106-mile run from Monroe down to Litchfield, we believe will need to be replaced for one of two factors. Either condition, some of these were built in the 40s or even earlier, or clearances needed for the new capacity lines. So we're estimating 1 in 5 will need to be replaced. Some portion of that 20% will be rebuilt just like it is. 60 foot, just like you see it today. Essentially, same kind of height tower, just rebuilt because of condition. Some percentage of that 20% will need to be roughly a little bit higher to account for topography and clearances that are now required for industry standards. So if you go to slide 14, and it's hard to kind of describe this, but I'll reiterate my point. This is some percentage of that 1 in 5. We don't yet know exactly what that number will be, but some portion of that 1 in 5 towers that get replaced will be slightly taller. So instead of 60 foot, they will be 80 foot. And what you see here is what we anticipate those to look like. Now, in a case where we don't need additional 20 feet of clearance and we only need 15 feet of clearance, we'll only construct those towers 75 feet. So in other words, we're going to make them as short as possible even when we do need to add additional clearances, if that makes sense. So essentially what you're seeing on slide 4 is that's some percentage of the 20% of the replaced towers. and you're seeing them at what will be their tallest point, 80 feet. Cross-section 3 is, I want to explain, this is a 1.25 mile section of the line that crosses in portions of Litchfield and into Londonderry. So again, that, if I'm looking at it from your perspective, the right-of-way comes in southeast through Litchfield into Londonderry. This is that 1.25 mile section, southernmost portion of Litchfield heading into Londonderry, where we're going to propose to expand the right-of-way by 66.5 feet. The existing right-of-way is 350 feet. If you skip to slide 16, again, that's what it looks like today, 350-foot right-of-way. If you skip to slide 17, that's a preliminary engineering design of what we believe this portion of Litchfield will look like when complete. When we've successfully expanded the right-of-way, and this is another important point that I'll emphasize, every portion of this line that requires right-of-way expansion, we will seek to do so through private one-on-one negotiations with landowners. At no point will we take land, will we entertain that at all. We're going to enter into one-on-one conversations with these landowners and seek the rights to construct the line, expand the right-of-way.
What is the fourth tower for?
The transmission infrastructure down here gets a little busy, as I'm sure you know, and that's a question that would be better answered by an electrical engineer. But as we start to get into the busier rights of way, particularly in Londonderry, there's additional structures that need to be built as we approach that switch yard in Londonderry. That new switch yard that I'm talking about, that's going to be built on those 5 acres of land.
Okay.
Why wouldn't you change the existing towers to accommodate all the new lines?
And from an engineering point of view, this is what would need to happen.
There's not enough room on towers.
If you put these towers here,
These aren't, but these are still staying though.
you wouldn't need more land if you just reconfigure the towers that are there.
No, I think there's multiple, there's more, this is a different line. So this is two separate lines.
Essentially what we're
This
doing
is
is,
a net new
yeah.
line. But I'd like to where the source is that new line's coming from though. They must be coming from a switch center, I would assume.
I don't think they can commingle them.
But this is a new AC line, which I don't understand. It's all 345 coming down from Monroe.
Right.
And somewhere when it gets in Litchfield, it turns into a fourth line that's 245. Or 230.
That doesn't mean that it's coming from a new source. It's just the way the lines are configured in the right-of-way.
So are they branching off the main line to get down? Or down, stepping it down?
I don't want to give you a bad answer, but I'm happy to follow up with more specifics on exactly why that's taking place. So we would construct that new 230 kV line. Now, this is another thing I'll mention. This design is preliminary, and in Litchfield, it's really a very southernmost portion of the right-of-way. It's been described to me by the engineering team, which again is preliminarily looking at this as a couple of spans of line. So it's when you think about how long those spans are on the transmission corridor, we're really not talking a huge amount of land here.
Just a quick question for you, if I may. Do you know how many homes that affects in expanding that?
So yeah, on the west side of the right-of-way down there, there are a number of neighborhoods. Lund Drive is one of them. On the other side of the right-of-way, there are no homes. Which side of the right-of-way we seek to expand would depend on impact and how those conversations with landowners go. This particular configuration you're looking at here assumes a expansion on the east side of the right-of-way.
So I'm familiar with the area over there, and I don't see how you can come 75 feet over with your right-of-way and not be 20 feet off of the back of that house.
I know, because I owned one of those houses when they put that switch.
You're talking about on the western side of the right-of-way, yeah.
On Lunch Street, yeah.
Yeah.
One morning I just woke up and there you guys
Yeah.
were, and when I sat on my desk,
It's under the
Dex, Steve can verify this, I mean, I don't know how you guys could even come any closer to those houses.
No, I understand. And as I said, I mean, I can't stress this enough. I mean, which side we seek to expand the right-of-way will depend on the impact to neighborhoods and how those conversations go with landowners. So, I mean, if it's not possible to expand into that neighborhood, then we would seek to expand on the other side of the right-of-way.
Here's the right away, okay. That's what we're talking about here, right? So Fish and Game's on the other side of it.
Right.
Okay.
But they just built their new ranges there.
That's what I'm wondering how.
They're
they-
not gonna want it there. I mean, their range comes right to the right of way. They're brand new ranges that they built.
Well, you can shoot them, yeah.
Well, again, this is preliminary,
Yeah,
right?
this is
Yep.
something
And-
we have to work on. Yeah.
So you'll be coming back with,
Yeah, as I said, I mean, what we want to do is we want to get to you as quickly as possible, since the project is, certainly post the announcement phase, give you an idea of what we seek to do and seek your feedback. I mean, this is an important conversation to have. Getting your thoughts on, the neighborhood in that area. As I mentioned, for a majority, I'd even call it a vast majority of Litchfield, there will be no right-of-way expansion. The lines will remain exactly as is, and we will essentially string new conductor on the existing towers and replace them where we need to replace them. This expansion will be in the southernmost portion of town, and we're going to have to figure out how we do that.
well, it actually is not. It's the northernmost.
Right at the edge of the house.
Southernmost portion of the right-of-way.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
Okay.
you're right. Thank you for the correction. And then if you skip to slide 18, this is another example of the reconfigured right-of-way. This would be in the cases where the two 230 kV towers on the outside need to be increased in height for clearance needs. So again, same configuration. You're seeing the expansion on the east side of the right-of-way, and you're seeing the taller towers where required for the 345 kVs. I know I'm going long here, so I'll try and wrap up. Slide 19 is a listing of our major permits and schedule for the project. Federally, we have to file for a presidential permit, which gives us the right to cross through the international border. That permit will be filed this fall. Probably our first permit filed and potentially our last one received. It's a 2.5 year long process. In Vermont, we're going through their equivalent of the Site Evaluation Committee, which is called Section 248 and 231. And then in New Hampshire, we'll file with the Site Evaluation Committee in early 2018 and kick off that process. So right now, we're looking outreach started on March, last week of March, through the date we go in service. Permitting and siting will be fall 2017 to mid 2020. Construction mid 2020 to fall 2022, and then we're in service end of 2022. We've entered into discussions. Another note that I'll make with the IBW folks in Concord and Vermont. And hope to be under a project labor agreement soon to ensure that as many jobs as possible are New Hampshire and Vermont jobs. Like I said, we're entering the next phase of our outreach plan, which will call for community meetings, open houses in the early summer, where we're going to seek your town's feedback on dates and places to hold this, bring up our engineering subject matter experts, real estate folks, so they can answer questions that get asked by the public. We'll send out mailings to make sure that the folks closest to the line are getting impacted or getting invited to these meetings. And then the other pledge I'll make, which is not spelled out in the PowerPoint, but I can't say it enough. I mean, if there are folks that you want us to meet with one-on-one, we'll go sit at their dining room table as many times as it takes to make them comfortable with the project. We'll be out knocking doors. We've got our website up. We've got a toll-free hotline, which is 855-603-GSPL. Those last four numbers are 4475. Our email address is info@granitestatepowerlink.com, and then the website is www.granitestatepowerlink.com. We just launched our Twitter handle at GSPowerlink. and we're expecting to be spending a lot of time in communities talking to folks. So I appreciate the chance to talk about this preliminarily and seek your feedback and answer these questions. So
I think you probably get more feedback the further we go, the more information that we get, and the closer, when your designs get finalized, and I'm sure the site selection for the expansion of the right-of-ways will probably be the hot button item
yeah,
that may cause some serious, quite a bit of questions.
absolutely.
But I thank you very much for coming and introducing yourself and the project. And are there any questions from members of the board at this point?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for your
and,
time.
Okay. John, you have,
I do, it's already posted.
it's up on the website?
Yep. And here's
Okay.
your flash drive too.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, next, I think we should go to public input, since it is after 6:30. And are there any members of the public that would like to speak?
I have one question about the vote. Was that vote when I came in, approval,
Yes.
Yes.
so I can make phone calls?
Why don't we get to that probably after the town clerk? Do you mind?
What do we need?
Okay, good night.
What do we need to
Thank you.
approve?
Have a good night.
Well, remember we told him the paving that was approved to
Yeah,
only
put
do
on
the
hold.
first half?
But we
until
also said if it was approved, the town administrator can authorize the completion of the
Yeah, we did
project,
say that.
which I thought
We
was
did.
already
You're on
done.
record.
Yeah.
As long as,
Troy, and you're all set.
and I
You're
voted
all
against
set, man.
that.
I have to make a phone call, that's why I came up. Okay, thank you.
All right?
See you, Jack.
Nice evening.
Take it easy, Jack.
Okay.
Watched
See,
it from home.
hearing no requests from members of the public to speak, I will close public input and invite our esteemed town clerk tax collector to the microphone.
I'm gonna start the discussion.
Oh,
and then
okay. All right, so you'll be here.
Terry
as a
will be here for the
resource, is that
technical
right?
questions.
I'm here for the technical.
I'm just gonna
Okay,
introduce it.
well, join us.
The
Okay,
actual
Mr.
operation
Brown.
of the department. So, Terry had approached me, questioning about the status of the part-time clerk position that we had supported back last fall when preparing the budget. And as we all know, it went through the budget process. That proposal was approved by the Board of Selectmen. When it made it to Budget Committee, unfortunately, they reduced the budget, eliminated the plan for bringing on the part-time help. Terry has come to me and has expressed still concerns over the same issues that we talked about last fall. The primary concern is that the staff in her department are getting to that point in their career where retirement probably is not that far away. No one knows when the two clerks will decide that they wish to, go into retirement. But I'm sure that day is coming sooner than later. We also get feedback quite often from residents looking for additional evening hours. And I think if you ever come in here on Monday nights when we have our meetings, you can see Monday nights there's a high demand for service, between the hours of 4 and 6. And we've continually seen this increase in the last year or so. So the other problem is you're not able to just go out and advertise and hire someone for this type of position. It requires a lot of training. For example, the skill sets just isn't there. I can assure you that every time you have a vacancy in the town clerk's office, you're going to hire someone that has no training, at least when you're talking about recruiting a part-time position. The training for this position requires at least a full 30 days of in-house training under Terry and her deputy assistant. And then there are training, a half-day training at the state level in Concord for the driver privacy class. two full days for the state agent, 1 full day for the boat agent, 1 full day for vital records, and Fish and Game has 1 full day, and the election workshop is 2 full days. Now, these workshops are not offered on a weekly basis. They really on demand throughout the state. So when all the town clerks inform the state that, hey, we have some individuals here ready to be trained, when they have a certain number ready to go, they'll offer a training session. So it can take, at least a year before someone's hired, is fully trained and certified, and can actually, do work on their own with, 100% competency. So we wanted to bring this issue to your attention. We know it continues to be a concern for Terry, and we'd like to try to see if the board would consider trying to start something this year, a little different look than what we were proposing last year, but not a whole lot. What we're talking about this year is taking one of the part-time positions, the only part-time position that we have, and reducing the hours from 32 hours per week down to 25 hours a week. And that would create some savings for us. And then we'd bring on a part-time position, which would be 23 hours a week. And again, the purpose would be to get this person on board, get them trained. We don't think that that we'd be even looking at expanding hours until right around the first of the year. But then again, we don't know how quickly this person will, be trained and be fully competent to do this type of work. So if we were looking at the best case scenario, and we're able to start this position, make the changes in the department, June 5th is a realistic date, I think. I think it's pretty aggressive. Probably July 1st is more realistic. But if things went well, advertising through the recruitment process, it's possible June 5th could be a start date. And if we've just done some quick calculations here between Terry, Karen, and myself, and with the savings of reducing the existing part-time clerk hours from 32 to 25 hours a week, Terry has training money that she was planning on going to a regional training session this year. That's $800. She would not attend that session this year. And then we have some other costs of just training and travel costs going up to Concord. But the net cost to the town will be about $7,500. We don't, and that's something, it's a number that's not in our budget, but it's a small number, and I'd like to think that there's a way that we could find the funding to do that. Another alternative is to look at funding this position, starting it towards the fourth quarter, and that would be a startup around September 4th. So that would allow us to get this position going, and so that we're around January 1st, we put our budget together, we would have this position in place, and it would really be part of the 2017 it's a 2018 budget, and that cost would be around $2,500. A lesser amount, a lot more manageable. But we've got a lot of issues going on with just vacation time,
Right.
summer vacation time. You have to understand, again, because we have senior staff, I believe everyone in the office, including yourself, is eligible for 3 weeks vacation. So it's tough. And Terry, you can add anything on there that
I think the biggest thing, when they come in to work, that they have to work in our office for 30 days. They can't do anything with registrations. All they can do is sit and watch what we're doing. Taxes, they can probably do the tax stuff. But until they go to that training, they'd sit with us, and then once they get their municipal agent license from the state, then we can start putting them on the computer and working with them. My idea was to, with the 2 part-time, is we can kind of increase hours, because we only have the 2 windows. But eventually, like Troy said, later on, once they're trained, we can put in 2 evening hours with myself on one evening and the deputy on another evening, so that they're not, the 2 part-timers are with a full-timer. So it would actually, in the end, it's gonna benefit the citizens as well.
And you're using the same amount of hours you already use today, even to offer up those extra hours, by just splitting the
Right,
folks that are covering it.
right.
So this, if I may.
Go ahead.
So this 32-hour position that we currently have, that's part-time, right?
Yes.
Do they take town benefits?
No,
No.
no.
So
Neither
you would
one
be
of 'em.
reducing that person from 32 hours down to 25?
And then the new one will be 23?
Correct.
Okay. So I think the spreadsheet here is good. It tells us what's in front of us for costs. My question is very simple. Troy, have you looked to see where we might have money to pay for this?
Well, there's,
I understand that you've been away,
yeah, I know.
and you probably had a crazy week last week.
I did. And, one of the issues that I am aware that we're having some budget issues, and some of them are not minor at all. I received a new invoice for fire hydrant rentals this week, and overall, the impact to the budget is going to be $23,500. So it's my understanding that the hydrants that were put in the fall have just been picked up and will be billed for them throughout 2017. I have a phone call into Pennachuck to get a better understanding of all the other hydrants that are coming on this year, the work that's being installed now. It was my understanding that all those hydrants would be picked up at the end of the year, and again, would be billed, the billing would start in 2018. So that could be a significant impact, something that I don't even know where our budget would absorb that cost if literally we're going to pick up the all 42 hydrants this year. That's another issue. That's
Right,
just
I was under
just
the
a bomb.
impression that we were not going to be charged for that this year.
That was my understanding, and
That was-
but I
that
think
was
what
ours,
happened
too.
was they
Wasn't
started
that
the
too?
work in the
They started it
fall,
last year.
and I think
So we asked Pennachuck to defer it.
well that was one of the things. That
Still
was,
doesn't
I
help
think
us
there's
next
some
year, though.
No,
there's some
well,
things
next year we can
do.
ask for
Well,
the
next-
money, it's there, at the end of the day, we can ask for the tax dollars.
Right, and we know that's coming anyway, and we're talking, people know it's coming.
Yeah.
We have no choice for that, so.
And we also have legal expenses. As you know, we didn't appropriate any extra money for our legal defense for what's going on with St. Gobain. Right now, if you take a look at our budget, we've just exceeded our budget by like $300. So we raised $15,000. We're somewhere $300 over. And again, we can have a discussion with Freddie Flaherty about doing the same agreement that we did last year.
Right.
There was some question about whether that was permissible or not, but we had run it past legal counsel, and she was, she had approved it. And then later tonight, we'll talk about the phase 3 of the non-union salary implementation. So there's a cost to that. Now, where can I find some revenue? I'm pretty confident that that when we closed our books last year with our special revenue fund for details, that we had paid all of the $2,000 required match, and we had discussions with the union. Brent and I think John was there too. I know Brent was there.
I wasn't there for any.
Brent was there, and we were told by the union that that the money that was left in the fund after they had been paid, in their opinion, was our money. So there's about $30,000 in the fund as of December 31st that could be transferred to the town to help offset the cost of purchasing this year's cruisers. And there is also, I've been told, I've met with Dave Mellon. He believes that he could have anywhere from 8 to 10 grand available in his budget, just due to the staff changes that he's had in his operations. Now, again, you don't know what's gonna happen with the tipping fees as you get closer to year end. But he was pretty confident that he'd have those funds.
Aren't our tipping fees already locked, our contract?
But we don't know how much waste people.
Oh, yeah, we don't know how many times we've gone.
Yeah,
Correct.
I mean, we've done our estimate of how many tons we think we'll do this
Right,
year.
right, right.
But he usually comes, he's usually dead on,
He's
so.
pretty accurate.
Yeah.
It doesn't trend too different. I mean, it's always, I've looked at.
Well,
numbers
the economy is doing extremely well right now, and the economy will increase your tonnage. People
Yeah, the
are
weight
just-
gets a lot more. I'm not sure we can compact it and get it out there for the
Yeah.
same tip fee, but, because when doing, the costs were very consistent.
I know, I've looked at his numbers, they're very, very.
Yeah, when we were building,
Straight.
when we were building the center, it was very consistent.
All right, so
So,
let's get back on point.
okay.
Terry,
Go ahead, take it away.
when is the typical vacations planned already?
Yes.
When's your heavy months?
Actually, it's not too bad because my, you know, mostly the summertime, June to August is when, you know, we have vacations. We have them planned. I have one next week. Someone will be on vacation, then I have one in June, and then there'll probably be one in July and one in September. So,
So not too bad.
and both of them get, because they've been here, the deputy gets, I believe, 5 weeks vacation.
I believe they're actually at the point where they need to start using more than they're getting because they're running out of accumulation.
I get that, but we need someone to cover for them when they're,
And which is a good reason why we need this position filled.
right. Right, because
Basically, I
they,
was trying to get a feel as to if we couldn't do June first, how far we could push it out. Cause September, you're at the end, I mean,
right.
you'll
Do you even
miss
have
all the.
Do you even have a candidate, though?
Well, we haven't put anything out there yet.
I understand that, but do
Yeah,
we
no.
have any failure, do we have any ideas of anybody you think that we qualify?
It's a part-time position. It's 23 hours. It's, you know, there's no, you know, there's no benefits with that. So it's somebody that can be very flexible. You know what I mean? So
So-
it may be, you know, a little bit hard to find someone, but it may not.
Personally, my belief is we go forward. The fact that we allowed it to be pulled out of the budget, and, no, we didn't allow, it, but it was taken out of the budget, and we had no recourse on it. Shame
I
on
actually
everybody.
think that what they said was, you had the right to make a part-time position.
But they weren't gonna put in the budget without going to the voters with the warrant.
Exactly.
Right.
Which, by the way, we've been hiring part-time positions for years without that kind of conflict. The school district does the exact same thing without that conflict. That doesn't mind, that
But
doesn't.
typically, you do have to pay year one.
Well, we have to always pay year one.
Right, no, that's what I'm saying, that was why they pretty much, I took the reason why they said no, is you kinda have to take responsible for year one, and then from there, the budget assumes it.
Well, when our budget's already so tight as it is, you know, I just don't see that to be valid. But anyway,
Can you implement we've talked about this, $5 per vehicle?
That's up to the board to.
But see, that I think specifically has to go for transportation infrastructure.
It does. There's an
So it
administrative
wouldn't
fee
go
that
there
can
for-
go towards the
No,
clerk's
but it would
office.
offset
It,
another part of
But I
the
don't
town
think it's
budget.
appro-
Yes and no.
I don't think it's appropriate to send a fee up to, just to accommodate something else that's gonna come out of the tax base anyway.
I don't think it's right to pay a fee that you're already taxed for.
Right, exactly. So, my only comment was, with regards to where the funding comes from, listening to Troy kind of outline one of our concerns, but then also where there is some space.
Right.
My first comment is, with regards to the detail fund and utilizing that, that's obviously earmarked for police, and I think if you could take 10 and reserve it for next year for the whole $2,000 match, issue and concern, use the rest to offset the car cost, and take that money from that budget line, agreeably from the department head, that there's no other issues, because I think there are other shortcomings too. I think $7,000 is easily come up with that.
I think June fifth is gonna be tough to come by.
I do too, but.
Right. I think that, and with the tax bills coming due, you know, July, it's gonna be kinda hard to
Even try to train somebody at that.
try to train somebody while you're trying to collect taxes and do all that. So I'm thinking after the July 5th tax bill, where it's a little bit quieter and you've got that little bit of time before we have to start doing tax rates and, you know, someone's gonna be there you know what I mean?
But it does make sense to start putting the ad out there, find a
Yes.
candidate, start running it
So
through
we
the
have the
office
time
and
to
get the
do it.
right person, and then, then you have a lot of flexibility on start time. Even if you took them in a little early and they were just doing clerical filing
Right.
and stuff like that, that takes the burden off the two other clerks who are dealing with the funds and the things they can do.
Right.
Like I said, I don't see any issue with trying to find, based on what Troy said.
I don't
find-
either. And I think the longer advertisement period you have, I think it's to the benefit of Terry, because it's, even though we
I
can spread
agree.
the word around, people talk, and then they don't always, they say they're gonna apply, they don't.
And just to put this in perspective, this is not a new issue. This is something that you have been concerned about for a long time.
Almost 2 years.
And
Yes.
yeah, and the thing, the chicken may come home to roost sooner than later. And personally, I think if we don't do something and then something happens, we're going to be on the real short end of the stick. And I think it's early in the budget year. Where we get the money, I think, is really a moot issue at this point, because it's only May. Even when I was on the budget committee, we used to talk about, let's at least wait until November, October, November. If you're finding in September where the budget, the entire town budget is getting really, really tight, well, then we have to make decisions accordingly. We may have to limit things. We have to, cut back spending. But, I mean, this is an issue that really begs action, and I have no problem with it personally.
So I guess the question here comes to, what do you choose for a start date based upon how much money we think we can afford? So, quick calculation, if you bump this out until July 31st,
Or August 1st.
July 31st is a Monday, it'd be
Oh.
about $5,000 is what the cost would be.
Okay.
So, the number for June 5th is 7,500, call it July 31st is about $5,000, and it's about 2,500 when you do September's date.
Okay.
Terry, if you had an ideal date, what would you want?
I think that would
As
work.
soon as
I
possible.
mean, as soon as possible. Really, honestly, I don't think as soon as possible is not going to work. Like I said, I should hopefully get get all the tax bills out soon, sometime this month, and then we got to get that out, and then we'll have people coming in. And like I said, it's going to be tough trying to train someone. I mean, we can have someone come in and watch to see as they're collecting taxes, but that's really not that hard to
Is
do.
August 1st?
I think August
a good
1st would
date?
be fine, yes.
Well, I will only suggest let her post the job and try to
Right.
get candidates through there. If something, if you find a candidate that comes in the middle of July and can start in the middle of July, I think we can revisit. We're not talking about a lot of money as far as the savings to go from,
No, but I think you've got to do a start date, and I think the idea of July 31st or August 1st is a good, it's a good compromise. If she thinks that that's a good date, then let's go with her.
Right, because I still got to do, I'm still going to, I have somewhat of a ad that we can do, based on what other people have. At this time, Merrimack is also looking for a full-time and a part-time person. So,
get candidates out of that.
we can also, if we can get them in here for 30 days, then we know that when Merrimack goes up to train their people, that there's enough people, because we got to wait till they get enough people to teach that
Well,
class.
If we know a start date, when we find a candidate, could you get out to those organizations to see when they can start scheduling
Yep.
those classes, so you'll have an idea?
Yeah, they have a schedule out now, but the schedule that we looked at is like now. So I can get a new schedule from them, because these were based on town clerks and tax collectors that were recently elected. So their last date on here was, May 16th through the 19th. So they'll set out another schedule probably sometime, or I can call them now that, once we get a decision, I can call them and find out what date, and base it on the August 31st, but we can, base it on,
Well, I think at this point, a motion, if you wanted to approve the concept. You getting ready?
Yeah. So
Okay, go for
I
it.
just had one more question.
Oh, fine.
And I do take that there was an hourly wage put to this position that falls within our wage scale.
yes.
Yeah, we budgeted the
Yes.
entry level.
And that's how that's figured,
And an entry-level person is what you're looking for?
yes.
Gotta
Yep.
start somewhere.
So I make a motion that we approve the hiring of a part-time clerk position for the town clerk's tax collector's office, with a start date of no sooner than July 17th.
Second.
Where would that come from?
Give them some
It's the
flexibility.
middle of July, that way there she has a full 30 days to try to
Okay.
train somebody prior to her vacation that's gonna have someone out in September.
Okay, motion by Mr. Perry, seconded by Mr. Bork. Are you all set with the motion?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, okay. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
Terry, does that sound okay?
It sounds wonderful.
I didn't say question.
Perfect.
That was my discussion.
Fine. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 500.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's less stressful.
If you wanna get the ad to me, I can get it posted on the website. And
Okay.
All the Facebook and Twitter and all that crap.
All right. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Terry, thank you, keep up the good work.
Yes, thank you.
Have a good night.
Thanks, I will.
Okay, next item on the agenda, fire station septic system, Mr. Brown. You have a letter to us?
Okay, so hopefully this is shared with you now and you're able to review the memo.
Yep.
Attached to the memo is a PDF which contains the two estimates we received. Just to make it real quick and get to the point, I'm recommending Septic Designs of New Hampshire. Their quote was a firm price to do the design and test, the design work and the test pits for $1,900. And that consists of designing the new leach field if in fact it needs to be replaced one day. And $10,000 flat fee to connect the fire station to the old town hall leach field. That's a total cost of $11,900. We hope that we're going to be able to use the old leach field and that it will continue to serve the fire station, Old Town Hall. If not, then you can see that both contractors doing their best to just throw out a guess as to what they think that a new leach field would cost down there. And it ranges anywhere from $20,000 to $13,000. It really depends on those test pits results, and if in fact the groundwater table is higher than anyone expects, and you have to get into a raised bed system with another pump station, those are the factors that drive the price. But again, I've broken this up into phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 would be to make sure we can construct a new leach field on that site and connect to the old town hall.
Troy,
Discussion, question.
Troy, can I assume that our building inspector agrees with the recommendation as far as the way they're proposing and the vendor selection?
Yeah, as far as the selection, he's seen this memo. He's submitted some comments to me. The fire chief has reviewed both proposals, and he's in agreement with me for the selection of Septic Designs.
Got a quick question.
So Kevin Lynch is in agreement with you based on
the selection of the vendors or the approach here?
well, the approach and the selection of the vendor, yeah. I mean, he's had dealings with both of them, I'm sure.
He's not weighed in on the vendors, but he has said that still remains very comfortable that the old leach field will be able to accommodate the additional load.
The town hall one.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. All right.
he's very confident that will work.
Troy, just
And I hope it does. My concern is that I'm not going to spend $10,000 to connect to an old leach field and find out I can't build a leach field there.
Right.
I agree.
I agree with you.
So that leads to my question. Who, is this company doing the test pit? We're not doing it, correctly?
We're not doing it.
So
No,
Jack's
this
not
is
going
all-
over there with the backhoe and
The
he's gonna do
only
a test
item
pit?
that's missing from Septic Designs was that the trench, the paving
Mhm.
of the trench. He'll do the trench work and everything, but he did not include the pavement patch.
So we'll have to get Jack to do that.
Which is, we can do in-house and not a big deal.
I've had conversation personally with Kevin on this, and he thinks that leach field's gonna be good, and
It's the same
Boy,
age as the
it-
old one,
it-
although not as much use, I would assume.
He
I
said it was
get
built
that,
for
but-
25, that town hall, I think the low capacity was designed for 25 people, so that's what he said in the email.
Yeah, I'm skeptical, that's why I asked the question, but what other options do we have?
No, I agree. I think that we should do that. I mean, I have no issue doing that. I'm just, you know,
Yeah.
Well,
let's just
see what
verify that we
happens.
can do it. That's,
Right.
But phase one, if it doesn't pit out right, we stop, and that's our cost out
Right.
of pocket.
Yeah,
We don't, at that point, phase
don't
two
have any
becomes a
luck.
bigger issue, I get that.
yeah.
I'm just saying, we get to look at it after phase one and say it.
I think
it
that
tested or
the
didn't.
first step will be the $1,900, and I guess you'll know what you have.
That's what I'm saying, okay. So we're out of pocket about $2,000 if it, all of a sudden,
Right.
initially anyway, okay.
All right, the will of the board.
I make a motion that we accept Troy's recommendation to go with septic designs of New Hampshire's project.
Motion by Mr. Brunel to accept the recommendation. Is there a second?
I'm gonna second it for this.
Seconded by Mr. Bork. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
You reelected? What are you gonna do?
Abstain?
Aye. Only because I'm part of the fire department.
Unfortunately,
Motion carries 4-0-1.
The fire station they replaced 5 years ago.
Okay, library impact fee request, Mr. Brown.
Okay, interesting request here from the library trustees. They have a summer program, and due to the fact that they have limited space within their building, the summer program is run outside on their front lawn. And, I guess they've used impact fees before to install a fence, to create, a safe environment for the people attending the summer program. They would like to install irrigation system on this area. I think with the drought last year, they probably discovered that it was tough to maintain the turf, especially when you have an event going on. That can put a lot of stress on the turf as well. When you have 25 students and parents attending these events. They've received a verbal estimate from their landscaper that does their grounds maintenance, Dalmatian Landscaping. It's a local company here. They've indicated that they would go out to bid. They just used his estimate as a cost. So they've estimated about $5,000 to install irrigation. They're asking the board to encumber this $5,000 for irrigation. We currently have $13,500 available in the library impact fees. As far as returning funds, in the month of May, at the end, we'll be returning about $200, and in July, about $500. I missed one here. 200. May, the end of June, it should have been, was 84, and July, 500. So we are returning money. They also have funds still encumbered for engineering of their library. That's about $6,000.
So they're asking us for money.
They're asking to, but they are asking for money. They're asking to encumber the impact fees in the amount of $5,000 for the purpose of installing irrigation. So I think if we approve the encumbrance, then their next step is to go out to bid for an irrigation system.
Can I talk?
Absolutely.
Why would we ever say yes to a dollar amount before we know what it's gonna cost? That's insane.
Well, not even that. What about the cost of keeping it running? Water's expensive, so where's
Are
that
they on a
gonna come
well?
from?
They're on a well. I think
My only concern is that, are we allowed to use impact
didn't-
fees for that?
We built a fence with it.
Well, I don't know how we did that, because they did a program, so if they had asked for the irrigation at the time, they put the fence up, we probably would have allowed it. But
Yeah,
now
because
after the fact-
it was an expansion of service, because that's
But
how we
does-
deemed the
but
fence
how-
viable.
Right, but how does putting a sprinkler system in expand the service?
It doesn't.
If they did it as one big project, I could rationalize it in my head, but I can't rationalize
I
it.
mean,
this
I
way.
applaud them for their creativity in attempting to solve a financial issue with a sprinkler system, but I'm just not sure that it is appropriate. And I think, to Mr. Perry's point, I think it's an absolute necessity to get an amount, or at least a ballpark, a good solid estimate before we would even think to do that.
And they can't need more than 3 zones to do that place.
Well, you know, Steve, I was thinking the same thing. $5,000 is the equivalent of at least 50 heads of irrigation.
That's what I,
I mean, that would do, that's enough to do, like, an
Is
area
that
is 5
installed?
times that. Yeah, yeah, installed. But I mean, you know, I mean, it's $100 a head ordinarily. And so if you're looking at it that way, and don't give me this design cost stuff. I mean, anybody can go and flag it out and, you know, figure
It's
out
not
an
rocket
irrigation
science.
system. Yeah, it isn't rocket science. But
what
yeah,
are
I
you
mean,
talking
that's
about?
a
What are you
high,
talking about? What are you
high
talking about?
number.
Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4,
What's the cost for an electrician?
maybe
though?
8 heads at all,
You don't need an
altogether?
electrician, it's a plug-in 12-volt,
Oh,
it's a
that's all
12-volt
it is?
system, yeah,
Again, now, who would determine
nothing.
the appropriateness of the utilization?
Well, it's our call, but
Yeah.
For short money, because I question, I do question the use of these funds for this purpose. I think it's very creative that they.
Well, it is
And it's
creative.
true.
We can't
They're-
take that away
They've
from
created an outside space to do
they
the
should have
fact that
asked for the money then.
There
That's
was-
what
can't
it-
accommodate
that's
inside,
There,
but
there was considerable resistance.
Is there a
when we
certain
approved the
GPM,
fence.
Fence.
like aluminum supposed
for
to-
short money, probably $100.
GPM of gallons per minute?
Bruce Mayberry, who put together
We know Bruce.
put together your impact fee ordinance, he can provide us a letter of opinion if this would be an appropriate use of the funds. And you probably should,
Okay, I see what you're
before you do anything, I think you should
Well, I think.
seek that input.
Is the board okay with sending this back and saying that it's preliminary? And since you
Yeah.
don't know the cost and we don't even know if we could use the impact fees, you know, send it for further study.
I would say definitely get a cost to it.
Send it to interim study.
Just throwing $100 away.
No, I'm not saying spend any money.
No.
I'm saying send it back to them, put it
I'll do the
back to
system.
them.
But then it will
If
come.
we call Bruce,
Oh.
we're wasting $100.
Yeah.
Oh, well, then we don't necessarily want to do that.
Because I think he's gonna come back and say it's not, because he's been against us in the past, and we've. Again,
Yeah.
when the fence was being put up, we established that service, and that would have been a lot simpler conversation.
All right, is the board okay with Troy telling them that number one, we're not certain that it's an appropriate use of impact fee, and number two, that since there's no concrete amount, that we're hesitant to take any action at this point?
Exactly.
I think that's.
Is that okay?
Well, for discussion, the only problem with that is that it can come back to you.
Yeah.
That's okay.
And so the real question is, do you want it to come back? Or do you want to take a position that we don't feel this is an appropriate use of impact fees?
Well, by then, we could probably find out by hook or by crook if it is or it isn't.
I don't think you should use that.
And the thing is,
Not only that, if they had a number,
right, they have a right to come back. They certainly have a right to come back.
if they had a solid number that they were presenting us with, and we said, no, we don't think you can use impact fees, maybe we have $2,000 to help them out,
Yeah.
if that's what it was. But we can't do that right now, because we have no clue.
Right.
Well, we just sent them hard with $5,000 and $7,000. I doubt we're gonna be able to
Right.
find 2,000.
No, I
But know what you're
understand, but-
saying.
So, on the flip side, if what they're trying to do is make sure that they're using these fees before they get returned, they have, $6,049.95 left in funds encumbered for the 2013 engineering. Well, that's not enough money to engineer a library.
No.
Yeah, what is that?
They can ask us to encumber more of that money for that. If they're just trying to use money.
All right, are we all set with
We're all set.
telling Troy what, okay. All right, we don't need to take a vote on it. Investment policy review, Mr. Brown?
All right, we have other policies that, our next meeting, probably have a half dozen that we need to review. But this one is the most urgent because on an annual basis, you're required to review, and most importantly, the treasurer grants authority to the town clerk and the clerk and the deputy clerk to make deposits on her behalf. And she, this policy needs to be reviewed and and approved prior to our treasurer issuing those requests. I've reviewed the policy again with the finance director and with town treasurer. We don't see any need for making any changes. Town treasurer assures us that the TD Bank North it meets all the criteria for in regards to investments. I recommend that we adopt the policy with no changes.
Questions or comments? Can I hear a motion, please?
I'll make a motion, we approve the investment policy as reviewed.
Motion moved by Mr. Brunel, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Perry. Discussion? All in favor of approving the investment policy as written, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0. Next item, the corrective deed 10 Bradford Drive, Mr. Brown.
Okay, so the town sold the tax collector's deed to a manufactured home back in June 2015. This was a home located at 10 Bradford Drive. The new owner is working with a title agent to issue a corrective deed. Basically, there was some descriptive information that was missing from the tax collector's deed. I've shared this deed with our attorney, and she's reviewed it and recommends that the Board of Selectmen sign it. And I believe you have, once it's there in front of you, you can only sign it with black ink.
Okay. Any questions? The attorney has reviewed it and recommends approval. And, do I hear a motion? To approve.
I make a motion, we approve the corrective deed as reviewed.
Moved by Mr. Brunel, seconded by Mr. Perry. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0. Okay, special detail revolving fund review. Mr. Brown? Or did you just go through this, or we all set it?
There's nothing in there, so what are we
Yeah.
reviewing?
Who hit it?
Why is it hidden, David?
Bixby Road.
What the hell? Oops. I'm gonna try to find, we were just,
Now, was this the item that you talked to us about before?
yeah, let me see, let's see here now. Now, do you have anything there?
We're sorry, documents not published.
Yep, it just showed up. Well, nope, sorry, not published.
It says it's not
You have to
published.
you have to hit the publish button if you put it there.
Why is this giving me a hard time?
Do you want to defer
Public
this?
on the web?
Huh? You want to defer this to next meeting? Sorry.
Well, yeah, I guess we'll have to. I don't know what's.
There's nothing urgent with it right now, right?
No, it was going to lead on to the discussion about. Well, Selectman Perry at the last meeting wanted to get a recap on where we're at. I can tell you that because it's a revolving fund, you know, it's constantly changing. But we had on December 31st, 2016, we had about $33,000 in the fund. And this, again, was after we had paid out all of our required matches for the 457 plan. Today, with we've done a ton of work, as you know, in the last 4 weeks. We have a lot of invoices outstanding, and we have a lot of funds that are due to the general fund. But once everything is paid, again, we're going to have about $30,000 to $33,000 in the fund. So the fund's very healthy. And in another couple of weeks, I know that the invoices that we've had outstanding will be coming in, and, you'll see the benefit of that, so.
That's in total though, right? It's not 33 from December, 33 from now.
Yeah, no, it's in total.
That's what's
It's in-
left
It's in
over.
total, yeah. So again, I think at the next meeting, I will come forward with a request that we transfer some funds from the special detail fund to our operating budget.
Okay, so the reason why I asked for this was I wanted to see how we were trending, how the numbers looked, if our hourly rate was still working for us, the number of hours, and presuming the amount of details that we'll have this year.
Yeah.
I don't think that having enough money in the fund is gonna be an issue. As far as moving money out of the fund, I really question if it's the time to do that, or if we should wait for this grievance to be complete before we did that.
Well,
I think we should wait too.
and, in my manager's report, but, as I'll bring it up now, Brent and I were informed, the legal counsel, that the union has asked to push the arbitration off until late November. Not sure why, but our attorney was.
We have an idea.
He recommended that we go ahead and just push it off to November.
And as you stated before, they felt as though that once everything was satisfied for last year, money remaining at the end of the year last year is our money.
Oh, they said it.
They
right?
said it.
Negotiations.
Why are we pushing to November? Why are we even accepting that? At this point, why don't we just settle this issue and move on? This is gonna keep on hanging over our heads till.
Because we can't settle, that's why we're going to
No,
arbitration.
but why are we allowing the arbitration to be pushed out to November? They want arbitration, let's arbitrate it, let's find out what's really going on and solve this issue.
I agree with you, John, 100%.
Because this is gonna come back and bite us.
It does kinda seem like it's being pushed off to benefit
Well,
somebody.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, why
And
don't
it's
you?
not gonna benefit us.
Well,
Why don't you get,
I know, I would like this issue resolved sooner than later, too.
Okay, why
'Cause
don't
I'd just
you-
like to know where we're at.
get a hold of the attorney and tell him that the board wishes to settle this sooner than later, and that we do not want to wait till November. I have no problem with that.
It just doesn't make sense, and we sit in this
Right.
gray area until we get through all these disagreements, and
Right.
I don't, and again, I don't care what side wins the discussion, it's just, let's just get it done
Just
with, so
wanted
we
to
can
know.
move on, and
Right.
We just want to know what the rules are. I want to know what the rules are to
Right.
vote.
All right, can you call
We
Tom
know what the
tomorrow?
rules are.
I know what they are,
Right.
the way I
We know
interpret
what,
them.
we all know what they are.
I know how I interpret it, but
All right, so you'll call him tomorrow?
yeah.
All right, we'll say no. All right. All set with that?
Yep.
Okay, wage plan implementation?
So I gotta ask a question before we start this.
Yeah.
Shouldn't this be non-public?
Alright.
It's non-public, the wage
The
discussion.
discussion of who gets the raises, where the money goes,
Oh, no,
and
this-
all of
That's
that?
not what
This
this
is
is,
not
this
what
is,
we're
not-
discussing.
this
I
is
wasn't
my
gonna
ask,
talk,
right?
yeah.
This is
Yeah.
my ask.
This is not
This
individual.
is not
Okay,
about
well, I'm
individual.
asking because I'm clicking on the tabs below, and I'm seeing
Oh,
where this
well.
money
Oh,
goes.
oh,
Yeah.
So that needs to be done in non-public.
But I'm not even gonna look at that, so.
yeah, I didn't see that either. Why don't we defer?
No, no,
No,
no.
John.
If Troy's ready to go,
Well, do you want to take the lead? You want me to
It's a
talk? You
public
want to take the? Why
document.
don't you take the lead,
What-
John?
Yeah, my ask, just, are we on this topic?
Yeah, go
Until
ahead.
we get to whatever we can't talk about anymore. My ask is that the wage plan, as we laid out the process, it was a 3-year process. We are in the year where we're supposed to be doing reviews of all of our employees.
Mhm.
And we're also supposed to start a market assessment about where our wage plan is today.
Mhm.
And so my ask is where are we with that process? The market study is one, and I think we should do that now so we have our numbers for going into the budget season. And two, the first part, second part, whatever, where are we on the review process? As far as I know, we've never done a single review yet. And I know, Troy, I've asked this board to do your review, because it's due. I don't know, I don't think that's been done yet neither. We're overdue, we need to do it.
Right, the thing is, we don't necessarily have a set, I don't want to do a haphazard willy-nilly review. I want to do a standard process that's fair for everybody.
And that's fine. My suggestion would be, Troy, write your review. Set a format that makes sense for all your employees, and then we can use your review, and we can put feedback into it, obviously. But maybe have Troy lay out how he believes a review should look for all of our employees.
Right, I mean, there's plenty out there.
Oh, yeah.
The municipal association has templates.
I don't care about the temp,
Not
you
a
know.
problem, I just want a set form, I don't want just to go out, and say, well, we'll
So,
do Troy today, and then we'll do a different way tomorrow.
right,
No,
so my
we do
ask
the
is, let's
same
stop, my
all
ask,
the way
we
down
were
the
supposed to
road.
do this last year, so my ask is, we should stop kicking the can down the road. Let's ask Troy to, within the next 60 days, come up with a template and do his own. He can lay out his own, obviously working with the chair, get it all done, and then we can put feedback in. And if we agree with the template, let's get the rest of them
Get
done.
it going.
Because we're not doing what we said we were gonna do when we get this whole.
And you,
plan
and you are correct,
Yeah.
and there's no doubt about that, and we should. If we're going to have, maintain our credibility, I think you are correct that we need to do that.
And it is crazy, because the way this world has turned is that most people do their own reviews and then sit down with their manager and discuss it. And then, because you might have a perceived theory of how you're doing that's completely different than how everybody else sees
I've
it.
always been told you just tell them you're doing great.
Well, we could do 360s too, right? Where you could go off and solicit all your peers or all your employees and get their feedback too. That maybe or not. We did talk about that early on too, but we thought that would really cause.
Yeah. But John brings up a good point,
Imagine
because
somebody saying you're doing bad.
because, in the policy, and I was reviewing it, and I didn't realize the merit reviews were in 2016, but they were. So we've got a couple action items here. We've got the reviews that are going to be required. We've got to update, we've got to do a salary survey update. We've committed to that in the policy. You also have two things happening this year. One, you have getting the employees that were identified, the 3-year implementation to get them to where the target rate that we wanted them at. But you also have, this year, July 1st, would be the merit reviews. So there's employees that are not on that target plan.
Now, just remember that wage plan is a year behind.
It is.
So the dates that you're seeing should actually go 1 year further.
Your head.
So what you said, the review is supposed to be last year, they're actually supposed to be this year.
This year, yeah, for the annual. So this board, we have work to do. We're supposed to set, the Board of Selectmen is supposed to set a band.
Well,
And so,
percentage
For
of
merit only, not the
percentage
target.
percentage of increase, which then at that point
Yeah.
gets laid out from a merit
Right.
perspective.
And so we have a couple employees that were recently hired. The accounts payable clerk. You had Doug down there, the deputy fire chief that was appointed. So, presumably he's been put on a new rate. So he's competitive, but he's going to be looking for July 1st, this merit review and, the maximum amount that he can get. And that band's got to be set by the board. So I'll continue to work with the chair, and we'll talk more about this at the next meeting and have some work going. But those are three things. It's July 1st is going to quickly approach, and we're going to have employees that are going to, they're going to be wanting their merit review.
I think, to John's point, I think we, if you could do that as soon as possible, Troy, get the template and to do the review, and let's move on from there. Because I think it is important that we, again, maintain our credibility, keep the process intact, and it's going to be some work. We'll just have to, move forward and do it. And we can discuss the the other part of it next
Yeah.
meeting.
I guess the only other thing I'll say is, like the market study part, the increase, I don't think that should wait, even though we're a year behind. We already have our dollars are set 3 years behind already.
Right.
I think that should be done. And it's simple to do in some requests. We do get it from the municipal society.
The thing is, we should get the reviews done first, though.
Well, I'm talking about, this is the wage plan, which is the high, low, the mid, this is
Right,
the ranges, but that's not directly related to merit. My point is that we need to understand, make sure that our bands are still within the market, right? And that's something we're supposed to do in 2000. The plan
Right.
should still do that too. Right. Only item, yep.
Number 9, hazardous and dilapidated building on Bixby Road.
Took a ride by there. Ooh.
Well, so what prompted this? A citizen did come in and talk to me about this property. I went down and visited it. And, I talked to Kevin about it. And so he's told me he started to look into trying to get the junk cars removed, the trash and everything. But then I was kind of looking at some of the RSAs and realized that, the building itself is in really poor condition. I talked to the fire chief, and he told me he was well aware of the building and has plans in place where the firefighters, if they're called to that scene, will not enter the building, since it is actually been declared, it's been condemned by the building inspector. If this building is determined to be hazardous and dilapidated in accordance with RSA 155-B, then it's actually the Board of Selectmen that would issue an order. And you would issue this order to the property owner, making demands that it be corrected or raised within a certain time frame. And that's what really gets this thing moving. Typically, I know that if I contact the attorney, they're going to want the fire chief and the building inspector to weigh in first with their own opinion of what the condition of the building is. And based on that, I think the selectmen would proceed with following the RSA.
When was this building originally condemned?
It looks like from the photograph I had there, it looks like 2015.
That's when we had all the snow, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Field for the snow.
March 5th, 2015 is one of these documents that's posted on the door of the building and signed by Kevin Lynch.
It was one of those winters
Yeah.
when all the snow was piling up and this roof went down.
And the building's been vacant since 2015?
That's what I've been told.
Are the taxes current?
Taxes are current. Yeah, I checked with Terry today, and they're paid. They sometimes they're paid late, but they're paid.
My next question was, why, 2 years later, are we having a discussion to condemn it when it probably
Right.
should have been condemned in 2015?
Right.
Are you saying the RSA requires us to wait 2 years? Or is this just the lack of?
No, I think that,
follow-up?
we probably, everyone, I don't know how it got condemned, but I think, Kevin took action. I'm sure the board was aware of it.
This
and
is
nothing-
this is the first I've heard
Oh,
of it.
is it? Okay.
Well, I have to go through my notes. 'cause
Well, me too.
I have a senior moment typically a lot lately, so
Yeah.
I have to go looking through the minutes, but I don't remember Bixby coming up. I know about the property because I've seen it,
Yeah.
but I don't remember it coming in front of the board. Do you
So
recall?
So
Kev-
I
I know
remember when
Kevin's
this,
had-
I remember
Kevin-
when this happened, I remember it getting condemned, and unfortunately, some people like me just assume the property owners take responsibility for their stuff, and
Well,
I assumed it was fixed by now.
this
I
is
mean, at the
why,
end of the day, they really don't, they could leave it like that for years if they wanted
Right,
to, right?
that's,
We don't,
I mean, if
push it.
their taxes are paid up to date, I mean,
okay, so would it be appropriate to entertain a motion that the board direct the code enforcement officer to initiate action, report back to this board at our next meeting? That's what I would like to do.
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Mr. Bork, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Schaefer, that the board direct the code enforcement officer to initiate action and to report back at our next regularly scheduled meeting. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 500. Thank you. Next item. Last item. Appointment of ZBA member, Eric Cushing.
easy one.
Now, Eric is not here, right? Do we know him, or?
No,
he's
Eric
already,
came.
he's an existing member,
He's
isn't he?
currently on, his term expired. And he came in and talked to me and said that he wanted to be reappointed.
Has the chair sent a recommendation letter to reappoint him?
I did not receive that from the chair. I can't confirm that I did that, no. I have
What's
not-
that? I'm sorry.
I didn't reach out to the chair and actually ask if he would support the reappointment.
Then I would say it
He's
should get
currently
moved.
serving.
The reappointment should be moved to the next meeting.
Okay,
I agree.
we will defer that.
We typically won't do it unless we have a letter written from. the
Right,
board
we,
that-
a request from the chair, and they either appear or something, that's why I was asking. Troy, what is the one, Joshua Flynn,
It's Police Department.
Police Department? That's not on for tonight,
No,
okay. It
that's in my
showed up.
town administrator's report.
Well, no, it's on,
It's,
under
it's
appointments.
It's the only form under appointments that I know.
Okay, speaking of that, let's move on to administrator report. Mr. Brown?
Okay. Was contacted by Pat Jewett, and Pat wanted me to make the board aware that she would like to purchase a welcome to Litchfield sign down on the 3A in the south end. I think there was a sign that was there, and I think it fell down this winter. I think Kevin has it, at his house or something, because his son made it. Whatever the case, I guess it needs a lot of work. And she was looking at the signs that you see going into Londonderry. And so she was looking at something like that, where you actually go out and work with a sign company, purchase it, and do some landscaping around it. And she was hoping that by taking this initiative, it would encourage other groups, individuals to sponsor other locations in our town. So I'm aware that other towns can have some lengthy discussion about what the sign should look like, the style, what should be on it. So sometimes it's not as simple as just going out and buying a sign and, stick it in the ground, but it does sometimes require some public input. So her offer's out there, and she might be willing. I didn't have a discussion with her to say, hey, Pat, do you want to work with a small group of people to kind of
Well,
come up
the
with a
thing is-
design and
Right,
then
the
bring it
problem is, I've been informally suggesting this for 15 years. There are 5 locations that we would be putting, or that we should put welcome signs in. If you go out 114, I've seen all of them. The ones in Londonderry are gorgeous. They're gold leaf, they're, set, double post set. Goffstown has a really nice, simple, standard, sign out on 114 as you hit the Bedford, Goffstown line. And so I asked the town administrator, I said, what did those cost? Just those signs. Okay, and of course, the problem was on 114, you have state specs, how you have to mount it, et cetera, and you have to, yes, very nice sign. She said it's like $14,000 a sign.
What?
With the mounting, well, these are heavy.
Oh, those are
duty.
heavy, I know you're saying, I just saw
Now,
it.
and
I thought you were going to say 3,000.
Now, I know the original signs that we had on each end were, I believe, a scout project and everything, but I think we're at the point that we should have a standard, very nice-looking welcome to Litchfield sign.
That's 14,000. It's just
And-
a simple.
Well, between the mount and everything for the
Oh,
state,
okay, I get it,
not,
yeah.
that was the state one, the ones that the state required because they had a special
probably had to be permitted
metal
by the state,
mounting
too.
and all of this that had to go in. I'm not sure that the sign itself is that.
Yeah.
I'm sure that, you can mount it on different
So that's a good sign, though.
material and stuff. But I think, and I talked to Jack about the possibility. I know that, like, when I was in Northwood, I had the prison made up some very nice welcome to Northwood signs. We put the town seal in the middle, and they'll make them any size and that you want, and they're not as expensive as that. But if you're going to do something, we need to make it look nice, and
Consistent.
I really would like them standardized. What do you think? Shouldn't they be standardized? And I'm thinking because if we would have to put them in, one thing at Corning, Hillcrest, the town lines page, 3A, on both ends.
Now you can
6.
Now you can carry it away.
Right, but these are where people come into the town.
She said a sign.
No, I'm saying.
She wanted it to be, a seed, to say,
Yeah,
okay.
let's plant a seed. I see what you're
And
saying.
then
have
other groups
committees or
might
groups
sponsor them.
Sure, you could start each
Scouts.
end of 3A.
I mean, most
You know.
towns are only gonna put those at their main throughways.
Those are all
They're
our
not
main
gonna-
throughways.
Those are all main throughways.
Page is not a main throughway.
Well, you drive down Page and you
Yeah.
tell somebody that lives on Page that it's not a main throughway.
I didn't buy
I-
a house.
The both ends of
You wait
3A,
till all the
yeah,
development
definitely.
down there. is
Yeah,
done.
I know.
Hillcrest definitely.
That's why everything on Page Road is for
Yeah.
sale.
But in any event, should there be a committee or should we form some type of committee to look into this, like with the road agent?
Well, so
Um,
let me ask you this, 3A is a state road.
Right.
How would that be any different than 114? If they're gonna mandate how we mount this, and we have to pay $14,000.
Oh, no. But if you use like one of their approved signs, then that's a different story. If you're putting in one with a totally different,
Well, we have a sign, on both, in the north end of town, right? That's the old stone that's up there, right?
but those aren't welcome to Litchfield signs.
Well, it says
All they
Litchfield.
say is
Litchfield.
Charles Bancroft
No, it
Highway.
says Litchfield.
Still don't get how it-
The one on the north end says Litchfield on it.
That's only the state town
There's
border
also-
sign.
There's also a wooden,
Yeah, that's the old wooden one. It
There's a
doesn't. It
marker
just
and a
says
wooden.
it's a town seal. I think that's gone.
It's on, well, I don't know, it's on our Facebook page.
On the north
that's
end?
what I said.
We just have the marker?
Yeah, that white sign with the town seal, the one that the Boy Scouts I think put up.
I'm so used to always seeing it. I thought it
Yeah,
was
I
still
think that's
there.
gone.
When
That
did it disappear?
Yeah.
This sign right here,
Maybe Kevin has it.
right.
that one's still there.
Yeah, that's still there.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And then
I
the
mean,
granite marker's there.
Yeah,
The
well,
granite markers in there. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the white one's still there.
now I have to look, I thought I saw it
Yeah.
the
Are
other
you
day.
guys
We
gonna
lost
go?
the
I drive by
lighthouse.
it all
We
the
lost
time.
the lighthouse last week, but the marker's
I have
still
to say, the
there.
lighthouse got taken out, right? Or at least the side of it out, anyway.
We'll throw it in Kevin's
Sure,
garage.
take it
see
out.
Kevin did.
His desk.
All right. What do you suggest, Mr. Brown?
Well, you're gonna need a committee.
Yeah.
So it'd be good to have, like you say, some town staff, some citizens, and, work on a design and a location plan.
How about
I
if
think we can reach out to Pat and see
Yeah,
if she
how
wants
about
to be
if I-
part of that. And
How about if we talk about, is the board okay, Troy and I will sit down and work up a plan and bring it back to you guys?
Sure.
To like a
Yes.
committee or something?
Good idea.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
all right, I'll talk
Okay.
to you about that. Okay,
Moving on.
Huh?
Moving on.
moving on.
Okay. I wanted to make the board aware, I submitted David Mellon as a nomination to receive the VFW Loyalty Day Award. And so that was award ceremony, I think it was last Friday night, but Dave was not able to attend. So I've been working with the VFW to see if we can have the award presented to David here at one of the selectmen's meetings. So I'll keep you posted on that. I also learned the fire department had nominated Lieutenant Edward Clancy, so I understand.
Could we recognize both of them at the same
You
time?
could, yeah.
Why don't we do that?
They,
I think it's important to look, because we couldn't go to the
okay.
function.
I wasn't aware of the function, that's why I asked the question earlier today. I only heard about it through the mill on
Right.
Saturday.
Yeah, I apologize. I should have made the
And
board
maybe you
aware,
can
but
share
we
those, when
kind of.
those letters come in, share them with all of us, and, okay?
Also, I think you did receive a notice before I left to go on vacation. David Donnelly is having his retirement party this coming Saturday. You all received that information.
Is anyone planning, I originally thought I was gonna be able to go to it. Unfortunately, I have a grandchild thing I gotta do, which is, sorry if my grandkids come first.
Wow.
So, I'm not gonna be able to attend, but is anybody in the board gonna attend? I mean, it would be nice.
I've got, because it's Mother's Day weekend, I'm gonna be up in Maine for the weekend.
Yeah, that's part of my problem, that's why the grandkids.
My
are
daughter
there.
graduates, so I'll be in Vermont Saturday.
Wow, graduate.
She's graduating college.
Holy man, you old buck, you.
Yeah, you know.
Oh, sorry.
Can't see all the grades that are coming in on my chin now?
Well,
Well, you're way past me. You're younger.
yeah,
guess I've lived more.
I can't at this point yet. I can't.
My son's first communion is Saturday, so I don't know how many
Wow. It's a
people are
tough
gonna
day,
stay.
yeah.
It's a
you know.
tough, it's a tough time of year, yeah.
It's a horrible time.
You know, if I can suggest, I mean, it's unfortunate if none of us can go, but can we do like a proclamation of thanking for his service from the board? I mean, something to recognize his service and have the chief present it to him on our behalf?
Yeah.
It would be nice to, you know,
As long as we do it for everybody.
well, he's retired. He's the first one I know that is retired, so
Yeah, but he did that once, but he's still here.
but he's retired, and as a part-time, he doesn't get a retirement again. He's retired.
Is he forever gone after that, or is he still gonna work part-time?
And he's still working part-time. They all retire as a full-time.
He's retired as a full-timer.
Yeah. Well, he's retired as a captain, basically.
Maybe we should wait until he retires.
For real?
It would be more appropriate.
Well, like I said, this is the department's send-off from retirement. It's the board's pleasure.
It's
If
the
I-
departments, and,
Okay.
you know, I think that, you know, when he does leave finally, maybe that'll be our time to recognize him for all of his years, no matter what position.
No, I think it's right to do it now.
But he's still here.
He was a full-time employee. We would do it for any other full-time employee that retires.
Have we done it? As long as we do it for everybody, I don't care.
I believe we have.
Then why didn't we do it back when he retired?
Well, good point. But this is the retirement part they're putting on.
I mean, we were notified he was retiring almost a year ago. I think I think doing it now is counterproductive. We should have done it when he retired.
But this will, I would assume, there'll be, you know, gifts and speeches made.
That's my,
You know.
that's my understanding. Again,
And that's
So it's the
fine, but
only
there's no one
formal
there to
retirement.
present it on our behalf, so.
ask the chief to present it on behalf. He's our representative from an administration perspective.
That's it. Okay, if we could do it that way, at the
I mean,
retirement.
I would just say, I mean, I think the
I think
board,
it's-
you
I
know,
think it's
letter of
fair.
thank you or whatever, and then,
Or do you know, anyone remember what we've done in the past as a suitable recognition?
Yeah.
I think the last one we would have done would have been like, I think from Jason at that time. I think Jason did one for somebody. I can't remember who it was for.
How about, could you ask the chief?
Yeah, I
Can you ask the chief what may have been appropriate?
Okay.
And, you know,
the other argument
Order
is just a
something.
very simple plaque that says. We've
Well, that's
given
what
out
I was
the- We've
thinking.
given out the Granite State plaques in the past, right?
right, thank you for your.
Yeah, times
so
of
many
service,
years
maybe
of
just
service.
note his years of service as a full-timer and, you know, again,
Right. With the town seal,
yeah.
like
If we can
Frank.
get that done before,
Make
Frank
it do
can
with
get
Frank.
exactly,
Frank can get that in a couple of days.
yeah.
No, I'm okay with that, presenting it at that at venue. I'm. All right. Next?
So we can say that Troy's gonna handle that for us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then, like I said, ask the chief to present it because
Hasn't
we were unable to attend ourselves.
Right.
I think that's the easiest, quickest thing we can do,
Fine.
to do the
I actually
plaque.
think the plaque is nice. We've done it for other members of the boards and stuff like that have left. This is appropriate, I think, and.
Well, right, as long as it's there. I'm just a word a year later, here, I wouldn't, there is fine.
No, I was, that was my suggestion. This is a,
I'm okay with it.
All right. So the union grievance, we already talked about that, so I'm gonna contact the attorney, see if we can move it up.
Yep.
Got a request to the board, July 4th this year is on a Tuesday. And we're in the process right now of preparing the tax bills. And certain staff members have come and said, you know, what are we gonna put for a date? We've got a lot of people requesting July 3rd off, which is a Monday. And so we're wondering if the board would allow us to close the office on July 3rd. People would have to take their earned time. We have plenty of time to provide notice. And then our tax bills would be due on July 5th when they print them.
All right, so my only question's gonna be this. If everyone is not in agreement with using their earned time, what are we gonna do?
So what I've done in the past, if that's the case, then you can offer them, you can come in and you can do some work, you know? There's always some work that they can do, but I don't believe that's gonna be the case.
Can you tell us by next meeting how that would work? Can we wait and
I got a question.
I
too.
can only do it through email because of the timing of printing of the tax bills.
Actually, no, I don't.
Well, would it matter anyway if we change the date? It doesn't matter if we close the office
Yeah, I
So,
was gonna say, we could change the
We
date
could
on the
change the
tax bill
date.
to the 5th.
on the tax bill. I don't have a problem with doing that. It doesn't matter if we close at that point.
the only thing with the third though,
Yeah.
Thursday, that third is our late night. For people,
Right, closing
Oh,
on
the
the
Monday.
Monday.
yeah.
I don't know if we actually do that.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Or
Or Monday.
until 6
so-
o'clock.
Until
No,
6 on Mondays.
Monday, that's right.
Oh, that's right.
Sorry, I
It's
thought,
at the
I thought you said,
beginning.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
at the
It's
beginning.
at the
so they
beginning of
can,
the
they
month.
just be open Wednesday night late. Just
That
advertise
would be
it that
my
way.
only, yeah, if they
Yeah,
can stay
advertise
open
it.
late. Only because you know how people are, people cry now about the hours.
Yeah.
Well, all right,
Typically, 4th of July.
is there a motion to change the date anyway, and then we'll word
I make a motion to change tax bill date to July 5th.
second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Brunel. Discussion?
Is there gonna be any concerns with the printing of it? Has she already sent them the printer?
She hasn't sent them yet. She
Okay.
was waiting for this discussion.
Oh, okay, good.
But, I mean, her preference was that if we're not gonna close town halls, she would have the due date July 3rd. So that was the only thing over the date.
Well, let's keep it the 5th anyway. I mean, well, that's what the motion is, and then it doesn't matter.
That's
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 500. Now, as far as closing, before we make that, can you find out, Troy, if
If it'd be
everyone
in,
would be
okay.
willing? And the thing is, we'd have to really, that's at the beginning of the month. And I'm wondering.
No, that was,
I'm wondering if that is going to affect some of the people that need to get things done right at the beginning of July.
Let's see, the courts are closed on July 3rd. That would tell them the state's closed, which means they can't that would be weird if they. Courts are closed. I don't know if the
Court's
DMV 's-
closed, huh?
Can
I'll do some
you do a little
follow-up
research
discussion with staff.
and, like, have Terry do some research and find out
DMV.
what impact
Cause if
that
the,
would
if the
have?
DMV's closed, they can't do anything with it. Usually the clerk closes anyway. Even if the town stays open.
Okay, next item, Troy?
Okay, so, yeah, great news here. Our highway facility, the transfer station, the sawmill rec area, and I understand the library as well, are all part of this additional expansion of the water system. So, for whatever reason, they talk about the 38 homes that were left off the expansion plan by mistake. Somehow, these properties have been included in this expansion plan. So, right now, Penachuk has been paid by St. Cobain to design the expansion. It hasn't been approved. I would have to assume that funding will be approved for the expansion. And we will be faced with the question, just like all the homeowners in this town, whether or not we want to connect to the water or not. Now, Kevin has told me that the testing of our wells were all tested and everything came back clean. So right now, there's no action for you folks to take, but you need to know that at some point in time, we're going to be asked by Penachuk whether or not we want to connect to public water or not.
I think that's real easy.
I do too.
Town buildings should be serviced by public water if feasible.
Yeah.
A recreation field, absolutely not, because we wouldn't wanna see that, Bill.
Well, because there's no water service done but for the irrigation, so why bother? But even running, like you said, to public buildings, but let our wells continue to do the outside water for washing and stuff like that.
Yeah, because that's what Jack was saying, he wants to retain his well to wash his vehicles,
Yeah.
do all that
Well,
utility
now,
type
we
stuff.
wouldn't be paying because we're a municipal entity, right? We wouldn't be paying for the
We
water.
still, no, we would pay for any,
We pay for water, right?
Did you see the water bills in there? For this building?
I just threw that out.
For this building?
Well, the good news is if we get a lot of asphalt that goes to our transfer station and our highway department, so will those get paid?
we'll see how.
Let's get.
I haven't
let's
seen
get-
the
that's
design
what-
plan yet,
It's
but
getting
that's
kind of
a-
bumpy over there at the dump, you know.
No,
All right, well,
no,
let us
because
know.
there's a hydrant down there already.
Yeah.
Oh, is
So
it?
they're
Yeah.
connected to the hydrant side, yeah.
let us know, Troy.
Okay, you know.
So they do the whole.
Okay, then just a reminder, the special election, May 23rd. We meet again May 22nd. So May 23rd is that special election, and, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So I'm not sure about poll
And-
coverage and all this.
Right.
Okay.
I also, Memorial Day activities, I know the Historical Society has started
Heard
to
anything yet,
plan.
but, yeah.
They had a meeting Saturday to plan that, and they're gonna keep me in the loop.
Okay,
And also, one of them's gonna be touching base with you and the police chief and et cetera.
okay.
But it's basically the same as every year. It's gonna happen on Monday, 10 o'clock, I believe, with a,
That's what the
you know,
29th, right?
middle school come down to the town hall. Okay.
Just wanted to let you know, you heard through the budget process that we were gonna have an officer deployed, for military training. And, the officer, Anthony Brown, he did leave, this week, I think around May 1st. So, he's gone off for training. I understand that he'll be coming back, sometime maybe around June, July. He'll be back here for 4 to 6 weeks, and we'll probably plan to work a few hours. And then he'll be deployed overseas.
For a year, right?
Yeah, I think he's comes back around, right now, January 1, 2018. So the chief had budgeted overtime to cover those shifts. We have Officer Joshua Flynn, who's on board right now with us in a part-time status, and he's been going through the in-house training. He's already part-time certified, and he's going to be going off to the academy, but he's going to be working full-time May 22nd. The chief would like to have him come in here, do a swearing-in ceremony. And he just wanted to know if the board wanted to conduct an interview prior to the swearing-in ceremony. He's already on board. He's been out doing patrols. I figured that we would just do
Didn't we
the
already
ceremony.
Okay,
I
so,
met him, I thought, right?
all right, so we did. So here's the interesting thing, is that we met him,
Yeah,
but then we didn't interview him because we don't typically interview part-time hires. So
so that's
he
that's
was
why he
brought
asked the
in to
question.
interview
Yeah.
and essentially was turned away. Do you want to bring him in now? After he's on board.
Oh, like a
That's what the chief asked me. He goes, what the board's wishes were.
I think we'll see him when he comes in that night, and we'll have an opportunity to
We'll chat with him for a minute or two.
talk to him. I think that's plenty.
I've met him, he's a nice guy, and he seems like he's doing well from what he's doing.
What a surprise you met him.
What do you mean?
You're always here.
The chief's very pleased with him, and
Yeah.
I've met him. He's going to be a good officer. So very fortunate. And he's a Litchfield resident.
Oh,
Hydrant fees we talked about. So again, my concern here is $23,500 budget impact. These are for 17 hydrants that they picked up from last fall.
yeah, but you're gonna find out about
My
this.
concern is, what are they doing with hydrants that are going to become?
Well, we already
Yeah, but
signed,
my
Invaded
concern
here in
is that
July.
they told us we weren't gonna be paying for
well,
it.
we already signed the bill.
Well,
For that one.
yeah, but did you get an answer yet from
Not
him?
yet.
Well, why don't you hold that thing until we get an answer?
Well, I could, yeah. I could pull
No, we need to hold that. 'Cause
Okay.
Weren't you under that impression?
I was.
I was impressed we wouldn't see those bills till next year.
until
but-
next
Right.
year.
Please pull that out.
Okay, I can hold the check, yeah.
Penachuk wants their money.
Well, they can wait until they give us an answer as to why we were under the impression that we weren't gonna be paying for this, and why are we now?
Well, I know, well, let's clarify. We were gonna pay, but I didn't think we were gonna pay till next year when the full lines were all in.
Well,
Tell you what, we'll give them their money if they give us the tax money.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And the last thing we talked about earlier this evening too is legal fees. We've exceeded the budget. So what do you want me to do? Do you want me to reach out to Pretty Flaherty and see if they can, are you interested in doing an agreement again where
So-
we try to defer some expense?
Didn't we have separate money for that?
No,
No, we said we were gonna.
we had separate money last year.
Last year we put it aside.
I'm telling you, I talked about this last year and I said it was insane to think that we weren't gonna go through 15,000. When are we? May. We're gonna go 25 grand over on legal fees. Good job. Next.
Well, Didn't we
Well,
talk about?
It's the Saint Cobain issue that's pushing it. It's not, there's
But
no
we
other
knew
link.
we had it.
Didn't we? Well, we didn't want to go to Warren and ask.
We didn't want to go warrant article.
Ask for it. We didn't put it in the budget because we
Came
didn't
up
think the
with
budget was going to support it. And we said we'll figure out how to deal with it because we didn't think it was going to be. We knew it was going to be another 10. I think we all agreed it was going to be another 15,000, but you're right.
Yeah, I mean,
We rolled the dice and we've now been screwed by
A lot
it.
of this is.
Can you ask them, Troy, if they would be willing to?
Isn't this in defense of us versus Saint Cobain? A lot of this.
Yeah, can we?
Right, just to.
Can we
to
go
look
after
for the
those?
towns.
Can we go after those costs now?
so
Yeah,
that's,
but then you gotta wait to get the money back.
that
Just
is,
keep
in
it
our
going.
proposed settlement agreement,
It's
that
in there,
is
right?
one of the items,
Yeah.
reimbursed
So
for
they
the.
might pay us back.
So, I mean, this may be moot, right? If Perry, if they would be willing to wait for the settlement to happen, then
We
it's
can,
moot.
if we can get a settlement agreement in place before year end, to address like the hydrant fees and legal fees and homeowners' water bills, I mean, yeah,
Right, right.
it'd be nice.
Yeah, geez, pull that thing out, okay. Anything else?
That's enough.
That's enough, that's right. Selectmen reports, Mr. Burnett.
Nothing new. I have a budget meeting coming up in a month. I wasn't there. I think you attended for me, right? Budget meeting? Someone attended for me. I can't remember.
No, because I was at the fire chief's thing, that's the thing, the second Thursday. I
Oh,
can't do.
that's fine. Anyway, that's it. Oh, just want some feedback. I did post up the latest water issue around the settlement stuff, and the feedback's been great. You know, now they want more money, and it's costing
Yeah,
more
it's
money and
been
all that
that
stuff. So
time.
there's a lot of negativity around, you know, the additional cost of public water versus the well. So there's still that stigma. I'm not sure how we solve that problem, but obviously.
You're not going to, and I mean, I understand it. You know, I understand it, we're part of it, and,
Especially if you have your.
but what are we gonna, you know?
Well, just to collect the irrigation part, they've agreed to connect the irrigation system back up to the wells. So
Right.
there's no cost incurred for irrigation outside water. It's, you know, portable water that people are still complaining. I'm concerned about the cost, right? It's a lot about fixed income, and I don't know if we wanna think about adjusting our ask or all that, but, well, we already asked for full water coverage for a while, so.
Right, and that's what we're working on in the negotiations, so.
But again, there's a lot of, comments on the Facebook page and stuff like that about it.
And we should be having another one soon, shouldn't we?
That's right, because they have a copy of our settlement agreement. The ball's in their court to come back and give us their counter.
Right. Mr. Perry?
So the planning board had a plan in front of it last week, sorry, for Erickson, I wanna say Concrete Solutions.
Yeah, yeah, that's good.
And it's like concrete forms and things like that. And the plan was for, it's just north of Mel's, just south of New England Small Tube.
Yeah.
So the building's gonna be back there. They're asking for approval of a 15,000 square foot building to be built in phase one, and an additional 15,000 square feet for phase two. The board was ready to approve it, and I was able to push it off a little bit so that we can have more finalized plan and less contingencies moving forward. But one thing that the planning board did do that I think this board will find interesting was they cut in half the road impact fee cost.
Why would they, how can they do that?
Because it was a way to help entice the company to build the building in Litchfield. Was by offsetting some of the impact fee costs.
Can the planning
They
board
do
do
that?
that?
Believe it or not, they can.
Yeah.
It makes no sense to me
It's an
that,
RSA 600. I think,
it makes no
400.
sense to me that they refer everything to us as far as the impact fees, and then we have to approve them, but they have the right to waive them. So, that's what was done. It was, to the tune of, I'm gonna say about $5,000, something like that. So it was right in that ballpark. It was to help entice because they have to bring in power to the site, and they planned on coming in from New England Small Tube, but instead they gotta come in from 3A. So it's a $100,000 increase in cost that they weren't planning. And all things like that, it was a good effort put forward by the planning board in order to try to help keep the project moving forward.
I mean, and that's not unheard of. Municipalities do that all the time to entice. You know, they do
At
incentive,
a planning
tax
board
incentive.
level? That's what I don't understand.
Well, I'm not sure how it happens, but it may be at the planning board level, because they're the ones that are reviewing everything anyway.
So how does this company benefit Litchfield? How many jobs, how many jobs is it creating for the town?
They're projecting that when they build this building, they'll go up to 30 to 35 employees, and if they add it to the 30,000 square feet, which they would hope could happen in the next 2 to 3 years after, they would hope to grow to between 50 and 70 employees.
Has conservation weighed in on that either?
Yes.
And they've approved it?
I can't speak for conservation, but I know that they're
Oh,
well
they-
apprised of it.
Approved it, they talked about it the other night.
Well,
I don't know if it's been
The
approved.
reason why I
Well, they
asked is there was a
came-
project up north that they.
They already-
Against, it's the same impact in my opinion.
well, no, the thing is, a representative, while I was still with conservation, came and presented that to them several months ago. Told them exactly that. Their representative, and they seemed not to have an issue with that.
Again, I can't speak for conservation, but I know that they're well aware of it.
They
and
are well aware
I
of it.
believe.
Yes, they were made aware.
Yeah, 'cause like I said, other night they touched on it, just briefly.
I
And-
believe that they had signed off.
Right, and the thing is, here we are, for years been talking about economic development and getting, and I mean, if everything works out, I think it was appropriate that the planning board do that to entice them. If their costs, if they felt that it was important to do this, to get the company to build, and it worked, this certainly is not a negative economic impact.
So the other things I'd like to add, so to keep everybody, as the selectman representative, I voted no on it because I felt that, well, I believe this town deserves its impact fees for all reasons.
I agree with
So, just so you know, I did. The other thing I found interesting is this building is proposed with a cistern inside the building, and it will have a holding tank inside. I believe it will be the only one that we have in town, or the first one we have in town.
For fire suppression.
Yes.
Right. This,
And then otherwise, the other piece of land, so where Sterling goes down for
the church,
the church, there's another road that comes down. I don't know if it's a paper street or not.
it's that little teeny road that goes up.
So the
on the
three
hill,
property owners for that are in discussions right now, and they plan on coming into the planning board about connecting those two roads, making a U-shaped area.
Well, that was the plan
Originally.
originally.
And what they wanna do is they wanna get the planning board's input on what they would like to see in there. Because the property owners are being addressed with trying to sell the property.
Ah,
So there's some interest there, and they're trying to actually get input from the planning board to know what they want in there, because it's the northern commercial district, so it kinda can get limiting. So with that, I wanted to make sure I told everybody, projected, it's gonna be the first or second meeting in June.
okay.
I don't think it would be a bad thing for every one of us to be there to listen in on, just so that we know what's going
Can you
on.
remind us of this?
As soon as something is set,
Okay,
I'll let you know, but that's why I wanted to tell you now.
all right, thank you.
Steve, do you know the impact fees that were cut? Were all impact fee categories cut?
No, it was just the road impact fee.
So other impact fees were left?
All the others were gonna be paid and satisfied in full. They were asking for the road one to be waived, and they were doing it with the argument that most of their employees would be coming in from Hudson or from Manchester, because when they open the building, it's only gonna be the current employees, then they would continue to expand. So they were saying that the majority of their employees will be coming down roads that are already state roads, coming through town.
Yeah, employees change.
So,
So do
that
they
was
collect
that was
an
why they were
education impact fee for commercial?
I don't know.
the answer.
I have no idea. The only one that,
Library.
the only one that was asked to be waived was road impact.
Which, because the only reason I question this is just, it seems like an industrial building, the greatest impact to our community would be our roads, and of course you're gonna have fire and police. Now I could see education, library, they're not generating kids to be educated, and I don't think their employees are gonna go to our library. So it's too bad that they picked, there
There
were other
are-
fees that could have been eliminated, but we use that
They're,
impact.
I understand and I agree, and that was why I went against it, but they use the argument that they're gonna be using primarily the state roads. So that would have no jurisdiction on our road impact fees. It might have been it might have been the biggest one, and that's why they asked for it to be waived,
maybe.
but they did agree to pay half,
Yeah,
Okay,
so
thank you.
that is all I have.
All right, Mr. Bork.
No, I don't really have nothing. What do you guys wanna say?
Mr. Schick?
Well, Recreation Commission, we have, we've had a back and forth with pickleball. They, pickleball has, you know, obviously a group of people and their bylaws and the way we've, accepted them to use Town Hall, the frequency that they do is they have to have 75% Litchfield resident membership. They're down to 25% Litchfield resident membership. So now tomorrow night we'll be looking at, you know, what do we need to do to, I mean, obviously, they take up a lot of daytime time at Town Hall, and they're not really, you know, they're not hurting anything, but it is wear and tear on the facilities and electric and everything else, so,
Do they pay a fee or anything?
no, they don't.
Is that something that might be considered?
Yeah, John Bryant is, you know, our chair is, gonna have a lot of, you know, things to say about this, and I think that the fee-based stuff, but again, you know, we've kinda held to the mantra that we don't wanna get in the business of renting out our properties, and that's, you know, the recreation doesn't anyway, and that's, so it'll be interesting tomorrow night just to see we just discovered they only have 25% Litchfield members, so and they have 120 members, so,
Wow.
so there's 80 people coming from Hudson, Manchester, Nashua to use our facilities, so, it's a lot.
Well, just as a little tidbit for everybody, pickleball does a lot as far as giving back to the community.
Oh, I agree.
They always seem to write checks anytime it's needed, recreational purposes and things like that, so. And I believe they pay for the custodian, or at least they used to.
No, they don't anymore.
yeah, but I know that when Kevin has some problems with, some issues, like I know the water cooler, which was like an $1,800 cost item, they came forward and paid for that, so.
They gave baseball $500 this past winter, and they are good. I'm not saying they're bad, but I'm just
Right.
stating the facts that, you know, the Recreation Commission's trying to steer through, and that's where they're at. So
Okay.
that's all.
All right, anyone else? Any other business? Next regular meeting is May 22nd, 2017. Is there any other business to come before this august body? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Perry moves to adjourn, Mr. Bork seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?